Real Money Show, the number to call, 1-877-214-1711, online at guildhallwealth.com. Darren, back in. We got a very special guest on the show today.
Gerald Celente is here. Gerald, how are you? It's good to be with you here on the show today. Thanks for taking the time. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity to catch up. The last time we were together was actually the SEED event in Vancouver. How have you been?
Well, everything's been fine. Bought some more historic buildings in colonial Kingston, New York. It was the home of the first American Revolution, and I'd like to see some of the second ones start here.
That's fantastic. Well, as you know, we've been doing this Real Money Show for the past 4 years and bringing the wonderful world of gold and silver bullion ownership to our clients, and our view is very simple. The world is a mess right now, geopolitically, economically, and we need to protect the wealth that we've amassed and ensure it going forward, no matter what the currency might have to be. And to this end, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. You discuss in the recent Trends Journal from the summer sustained coverage of media events and how the media has been guilty of giving a false sense of urgency around a lot of low priority topics. Would you say that it's safe to assume we continue to have the wool pulled over our eyes as to the true extent of weakness that our world economy is currently facing?
I've never seen more wool, or as I like to call the media, the prostitutes, because that's all they are. They're just doing what any good prostitute would do. You give them a couple of bucks, and they'll bend over. They'll do anything that they need to do to serve the client. And that's all the media is. Am I making this up? Take a look back here in the States. Who's the president's press secretary? James Carney. Where did he come from? Oh, he was with Time magazine for about 20 years. And you go look at all the people with the revolving door between the press and the government. So, no, they're not going to tell you what's going on. And so what they do is we hear about Trayvon Martin, we hear about Miley Cyrus, we hear about Lindsay Lohan, and we never get the lowdown on what's really going on. All we do is get news to distract us. It's the greatest show on earth. It's a circus.
You know, it's great to hear that, because when we talk about this, I'm not sure to what extent our listeners really hear what we're saying. But the truth is that this has been happening for so long. Now, given the nature of what we've been facing in the world's largest economy in the U.S., your home country, is it possible that going forward we may have to rely more on alternative currencies? Or do you see a trend developing where gold and silver might become a medium of exchange?
You know, I don't give financial advice. I'm a trend forecaster.
Of course.
So just to make that clear, as we're talking, and there's some breaking news that I think is a bit more important than what you were just talking about, and that is the Kardashian girl is having another incident over here, and I feel very emotional about it. So of course it's to me, I'm in gold, and I'm in gold primarily. I have 80-20 gold to silver. And my first buy of gold, by the way, was in 1978
Jeez.
At $187.50 an ounce.
Well done.
And I want to also make it clear, I also bought on the highest day when it collapsed at $875 on January 21st, I believe it was, to 1980. But I'm saying this because it's very important. I remember what it felt like back then. This is totally different. Back in the 1980s, there was no globalization. China, they weren't buying anything. Russia, man, there was the Soviet Union. Everything east of Berlin was locked behind the Iron Curtain. There wasn't a global market. So to me, I'm in gold and silver because I look at what's going on. I mentioned to you I bought these buildings. On one of them, I got a 15-year mortgage locked in at 2.875%. That's lower than the rate of inflation.
Jeez.
Once they stop printing all of this money, some $21 trillion, if you look at all the numbers and put them together, the Federal Reserve has dumped into the system to keep this thing alive. $21 trillion. So now we're hearing about tapering. Here's my take on it. They're not going to be able to do tapering this year. And of course, this is only, my best forecast. And the reason why, we just saw Obamacare. It's forcing people now to go out and buy insurance. If you don't buy insurance, you're going to get fined. So what does that mean? Money's being sapped out of the consumer economy. Retail sales are already down. Holiday Christmas time's coming up. Holiday sales, they have to boost retail sales. They're not going to do it now. When they do it, I believe they're going to do it in the beginning of the new year, and by March, this whole thing should be collapsing big time because interest rates are going to go up and the economy is going to go down. The only reason there's any kind of real estate market in the U.S. is because of these record low interest rates. The only reason that anything is going on is because of the record low interest rates. So when interest rates go up, you're going to see the bond bubble burst. So I'm into gold, I'm into silver, and I'm into it for my golden years, particularly with gold. This is the kind of thing you trade. You know, I used to trade, and, you know, unless you're really on the inside, you have some great algorithms behind you, you know, it's a rough shot. So I buy gold for possession.
Well, I mean, you know what? When you think about it, the potential of a bond bubble is something that here in Canada is also affecting the way people invest. And ultimately, I think it's changing the mentality, but it's happening very slowly. Do you think that the rest of the world is now becoming more aware of things like bullion ownership or other hard assets in terms of trends?
Why ask me? Why don't you ask the Asians? They bought for possession. It increased over 53% in the last quarter. Look what they're trying to do over there in India. You know, the Indians, they like gold more than they like curry. And they can't get gold anymore because the government has now put on tax on top of tax. They're making it almost impossible to buy medallions or coins. And why? Because the rupee's in the toilet, where it should be with all of these other emerging market currencies. The only reason the emerging markets had gained any strength is because all of the hot money coming out of the United States and going into these countries. And now the money flow is exactly the opposite. It's pouring out of these countries. Look, they're being forced to raise interest rates at a time when they're going into recession. Does that tell you what the future looks like over there? So, yes, you're looking at Thailand. You're looking one after another. Demand for physical possession continues to increase, particularly among the people that have been on the planet a pretty long time and know what the story is because they've seen it or heard it before.
Well, this is, you know, you're certainly preaching to the choir here. We definitely believe exactly what you're saying is happening. And I mean, if you look even within the TrendsJournal at the article called Capitalism is Dead, I think that a lot of people are having to rethink the strategy that they once had within their portfolios and other things like that. But knowing you're not providing financial advice, do you think that one of the trends that develop in also too with respect to the aging population is that we see more and more people change the attitude they have towards what is traditionally considered a good investment? Yes,
because pick up the paper and pick up the day. You want to look at the last one that just came out? Citigroup got fined, $30 million for insider trading information. Why don't we go back to the LIBOR scandal? No. Why don't we go to the latest one that's coming out now? Their currency scandal going on now. The Swiss are looking into it. They're rigging this currency game. How much more proof do people need? Every day there's a new scandal going on, but the reason it doesn't make the big news and fades out right away is because the big guys never take a hit. And they reserve that for us, we the little people. So you got guys like John Corzine, and, from the head of MF Global.
Of course.
Former senator and governor of New Jersey, former head of the Goldman Sachs gang. What happened when Goldman Sachs came down? Look what the Commodities Future Trading Commission did. How about nothing? Oh, I wonder why. Oh, it couldn't be because of the guy, Gary Gensler, who's the head of the Commodities Future Trading Commission. He worked for the Goldman Sachs gang. Funny. When Corzine was there, you get it, everybody gets it. That's what I'm saying. So the people that are attuned, awake, and aware know the game is rigged and know it's one big Ponzi scheme. And you have a commander-in-chief in whatever country you're living in laying down the jive. Listen to Lagarde, her recent talk about the dangers that the Eurozone is still in, and in all of the the con lady talk about how things are going to improve, and she has the nerve to talk about what's going on in the United States and the strength and the rebound in this country. I'm over here. Who's she talking to? What am I, 6 years old? I know why there's a rebound over here, as I said, because of record low interest rates. End of story. There's no rebound. The people have lost between 8 and 10% of their median household income since the panic of '08. It's below 1999 levels. 95% of the jobs being created. This is a fact. In the new year, in the U.S., are part-time jobs. There is no recovery. It's a cover-up. And then you're seeing more and more destabilization. You're seeing what's going on in Greece. This whole thing with the Golden Dawn. I don't know, what neo-Nazi group? If they're a neo-Nazi group, the government in charge is a neo-fascist group, because the merger in state and corporate powers is fascism, and that's what's going on over there. But I'm pointing it because of the unrest in Spain. There's unrest in Italy. Gangs are roaming Europe right now. You don't believe me? Go to CNBC, and even they're talking about it. So you're seeing destabilization and unrest. And, gold didn't get the safe haven recommendation, gold seal, for nothing. And the people that say it's not a currency, yeah, what are they looking at? The last, 80 years? How about looking throughout civilization? It's always been a currency. It's always been the last means of resort for doing any kind of exchange with gold. Gold, to me, is solid. It's not going to go away because Warren Buffett or Nouriel Roubini don't like it.
You know what? You couldn't have said it we couldn't have said any better, Gerald. It's incredible. What is the best way for people to get a hold of Gerald Celente?
TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com. You have the magazine. It's the only magazine on the face of the earth where you can read history before it happens.
What is the upcoming event? The next time somebody can see you, plug in, see you on the web, where are you going to be in short order?
Well, what they do is, as a subscriber to the Trends Journal, we have Trends Journal TV. So every day, Monday through Friday, we do trends in the news, the real news, what's going on around the world without any political bias. I'm a political atheist, and we have no hidden agenda. And by the way, as you well know at the Trends Journal, count the advertisers. None. So we're not beholden to anyone.
Gerald, it's Paul here. Is it possible for you to stick around for a couple more minutes while we just do commercials here in between?
Sure.
Lovely. Thank you.
And more of The Real Money Show. The number to start investing: gold and silver, bullion, precious metals, 1-877-214-1711 and guildhallwealth.com. While you're on the website, take advantage of the Precious Metals Advisor subscription to Guildhall's premier market newsletter. And continuing with our special guest here, trends analyst. He is the guru of Gerald Celente. Welcome back, Gerald.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Hey, Gerald, Darren here. I'm curious because we're coming up to a pretty important date in the U.S. where the debt ceiling is going to be raised, I would assume. And I think, again, we're going to see yet another round of, well, in essence, printing. If it's not already terrible, it's going to get worse. What is your expectation when this date arrives?
Well, they're going to have to raise the debt ceiling. And, again, look what's going on here in the States. Do you know that only 10% of the people have faith in Congress? 87% don't. This is the D.C. drama queens and the Beltway circle jerks. They're over their head in everything that they do. Anything that they do is going to end up in failure. Am I being sarcastic and being nasty? No, I'm speaking the facts, because I will ask you this question. Whether it's going to war, whether it's inventing a health care program, as they have now, whether it's education, you tell me one thing that Washington has done successfully that has turned out to be, wow, what a great job they did, rather than, my God, another disaster. And that's what's going to happen with raising the debt ceiling. It's just going to make more worse. And again, where are they going to come up with the money? And the only way they're going to come up with the money is to print it. The more they print, the cheaper the value of the dollar. The cheaper the value of the dollar, the higher the price of gold.
Right.
And the only reason, by the way, you haven't seen the euro decline more is that it's everybody's in trouble. and so there, it's the dollar should be a lot weaker than it is, but because there's no strength out there, there's really nothing to play against. So, for example, let's suppose the Germans still had the franc, or the Swiss did, and they didn't abandon it and go on to the euro, and that's why they did, because the Swiss franc was going through the roof. So they pegged it back to the euro. So you're looking at most of the countries in trouble now. As I mentioned, you're seeing what's going on in the emerging markets. All of the hot money that went in there because of the tapering and the quantitative easing, that's now flowing back out. China's keeping their economy alive by juicing it with dough. And so once that juice stops, and they tried it, by the way, earlier this year, and as soon as it started to happen, you started to see their indexes crash. Panic set in. They're all addicted to monetary methadone, and the monetary methadone does not cure the addiction.
Well, you know what? That's it's amazing how aligned our beliefs are, and again, we share those same beliefs. Last question for you, Gerald. You talk about globalization in the sense of the article that you had in the recent Trends Journal, and how a lot of what's happened revolves around multinationals condensing the smaller mom and pop businesses and things of that nature. What is the trend going forward in terms of that? Do we see a retracement in globalization at all because of a breakdown, in your opinion?
Yes. There's the two forces are fighting against each other. And by the way, I've had a little epiphany on globalization, and you mentioned it when you talked about multinationalization, multinationals. I am now calling it multinationalization. That's what it is. The bigs are taking over everything. And is the backlash? Yeah, you're seeing the backlashes in countries in the Netherlands, in Greece, in France, throughout in Spain. There are more and more people that are disillusioned with having one currency or having one Brussels government look over them. You're going to start seeing more and more pushing and shoving coming, particularly from the lower ends. Look at the numbers. You're looking for, according to The Economist, for example, it's something like a quarter of all the youth either are unemployed or at low levels of education. These are young people. They have no future. So when all else is lost, they take you to war. And the people are going to start getting out to the streets. That, by the way, is my greatest fear. And as you well know, that was the top trend of 2013 for us.
That's right.
War. And I'm concerned about war. And that's where I see them leading us. Because what we have in charge are the sociopaths and the psychopaths. Pick your country, and you'll be able to see them.
This is something that we talked about even when we met the first time in Vancouver, and I couldn't agree with you more about it. And I think it really is just a matter of time. Now, before you go, and I'll give you another chance to plug the Trends Journal, but what do you think in terms of going forward? Do you think we see for bullion prices, as it relates to our show, The Real Money Show, talking about gold and silver, do you feel strongly that we see much higher pricing in gold and silver?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, do I know when? No.
No, of course not.
I could tell you this. I've already said it on the air to other people. I bought gold this month.
Right. Well, again, that's something that we believe strongly in. We think it's one way you can insure your portfolio. Do you have any thoughts before you go on what Canada is facing, in particular our country?
Well, again, as goes the U.S., so goes the world. We're seeing it again with the emerging markets. Look, read Christine Lagarde's latest piece. She keeps hitting on the United States to set the example for the rest of the world. Oh, here's the example for you. Print more cheap, crappy money and give it to all the criminals out there that call themselves bankers so they could do more Ponzi schemes. So I'm in gold for the long term. I don't buy it short term. And the best strategy that I've ever heard is that a friend of mine buys gold and silver every month. And when you think it out and you put it out long term, boy, does it average out sweet.
It does. We encourage the same thing here. Gerald, I couldn't thank you more for the opportunity to speak with you today and share your thoughts with all of our listeners from Guildhall Wealth Management. Here, we want to thank you in a big way. Again, how can our listeners get a hold of Gerald Celente?
TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com, And the Trends Journal, we have a discount request page for anyone having a difficult time. We make it available to everyone who wants to read history before it happens.
Excellent. Well, listen, Gerald, we look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully, and having you back on the show at some point soon. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gerald.
And the number 1-877-214-1711, guildhallwealth.com. The only thing, Darren, I wish Gerald would have more passion when he speaks during an interview.
I know. Doesn't he just lack
Monetary
passion? I'm telling
methadone.
you. Gosh,
The prostitutes. He's talking about me. I'm in media. I'm embarrassed.
Well, listen, it's incredible to have a man of his stature on the show. It gives, again, a clear example of other people's thoughts, and we're not the only people saying this. So our listeners hopefully enjoyed that. We'll try to bring more of Gerald to you when we can, and other people like him.
Celebrities
That's
that
right.
we're going to bring that understand these markets. The real